What if we just read off a bunch of Am I the Asshole posts from Reddit? Because those channels are popular.
Well, in the general case of the Am I the Asshole posts, I'm tending to believe that the people are putting their best face forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're selectively editing out very critical pieces of information.
On some of them, but
Right.
it's one of my... I don't even want to call it a guilty pleasure because I don't feel that guilty about it. But it's my fluff reading.
Yeah.
It's my gossip column.
Welcome to Ypsilanti Area Discussers, an Ypsilanti podcast for everyone. My name is Mark Hergott. My co-host is Quellinia Hargenrader. Thank you so much for listening. Now, Quellinia, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
What are we doing?
Well, I'm not a vampire anymore.
That's fantastic.
I've been working midnight shift at the hospital for just over a year, and I finally was able to switch to day shift, and I'm on a normal sleep schedule again, and holy moly, you don't even realize that you turn into somebody that's not quite an approximation of a person.
Yeah.
It's rough. I really got to hand it to all of the night shifters, all the people that do it long term, because I made it a year, but my friendships barely made it, some of them.
Well, some of them are a little more durable than others.
I appreciate you, Mark.
I appreciate you, Quellinia. All right, so we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're just going to spitball. This is
just us getting used to being on mic, being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I'm a little bit self-conscious about.
Yeah.
So we're just going to be bad at it until we get better at it, right? That's the only way to not suck at things is to suck at things first.
If I remember correctly, it's from Adventure Time, and sucking at things is the first step to being sort of okay at something.
That's what I was trying to remember. Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Have you watched any good cartoons lately?
I watched the first episode of Chainsaw Man.
Is it self-explanatory?
So, he's a demon hunter in demon-infested Tokyo, and he got himself involved in the Yakuza. No, actually, his parent got themselves involved in the Yakuza. They killed themselves and left him with this huge debt. And the poor guy, he gave one of his eyes up for organ donation for money. He gave a kidney. He gave a testicle. He was running
gave everything that he could.
Yeah, he was running out of parts, and he found this little demon, this chainsaw dog demon, right? And he was able to use this chainsaw dog demon to take out other demons and use their dead carcasses to get money.
Wow.
Yeah. And it goes from there. I'm not going to give away the plot, but it gets pretty gnarly. It's decidedly a boys' anime.
Okay. Well, that does remind me. I'm trying to find it on the Ann Arbor subreddit.
Yeah.
But there is someone in our community that has been searching for a kidney donor. And apparently it has gotten to become a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
I've seen their posts in multiple places. But if any of you are thinking about, have ever thought about being an organ donor, please reach out and we'll try and connect you. Even if you don't have the right blood type, you can do what's called a paired match, where you can donate to another person who needs a kidney and they can have someone who's a match for you donate to your friend.
Right. It's all about building community, especially after, national events.
Well, I would think that many people are, in Ypsi in particular, are upset about national events, but maybe not all of us, so.
We just have, for the first time ever, a week full overnight shelter system in the 4 square miles.
That's not national news, but it is good news.
It is good news. And you should focus on good news. I know that people are really upset, but you gotta focus on the good news. If you don't focus on the good news, you're just gonna go frickin' crazy. And then you become, well, I don't want to say it so starkly, but might as well say it starkly. If you go crazy, you become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. And maybe that's not very compassionate because it's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, I've been doing this for 44 years, and being a person is hard. And rely on the people around you. They do care about you. They do want you to know that they care about you. And it's important to be part of a community.
Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we go through Ypsilanti area discussion and pick out a few posts to talk about?
We can do that. You got an Ypsilanti area discussion post that we can talk about?
Well, Tia Brooks posted 5 days ago that she lost a Paddington bear. It's her granddaughter's, and she thinks that they lost it in Depot Town. So, if anyone has seen a Paddington bear in the area of Depot Town, please reach out to us.
That's a good one.
Let's see. Did I see something about Water Street the other day?
I went to a city council meeting and I spoke. Actually, I can pull up what I said.
Something about utilizing state/national funds for the cleanup.
Yeah, it's not going to be any of the money that is being used on Water Street to clean up is coming from the state and federal government. And so, I mean, Ypsilanti people have paid into that pot, but so have like 10 million or 330 million other people, so we'll be okay. It's all right.
It would make sense to have a little bit more housing in the area of downtown. I think that since a lot of the neighborhoods are rented out now, I think that having that area developed for residential use would be good. You know, maybe if a couple apartment complexes could go there, or a small condo community or something. I don't think that we need more commercial space. I think that we've got plenty of empty commercial space in downtown right now.
There we go. All right. Wrote and then said at the most recent city council meeting, "Good evening. I would like to recap the last year in about 3 minutes. DPW has been suffering for decades with inadequate facilities and gave council an ultimatum. That resulted in a recall effort that ultimately failed to remove the most progressive council member. DPS is still suffering, but money is being spent to improve their situation. Many on this council backed a less qualified candidate for sheriff. His candidacy ultimately failed. Now a progressive sheriff has a chance to improve herself during a period of massive uncertainty. Whether she succeeds is in part due to the support of municipal governments and their policing agencies. I highly suggest you put aside pride for the sake of community. Many on this council supported a third ward candidate who simply did not have the ground game of a 20-year resident that will join you on that dais next meeting. I suspect some of you have poor feelings about how that election went down. I am going to be frank. The third ward knows what it is doing and who it is sending. Finally, I must implore you to take stock in what the advice of people that have larger wallets than I have has done to your reputations, your October meetings, and your blood pressure. Just because someone is smiling and using kind-sounding words does not mean they are your friend. I intend to speak at these meetings much more often. I suggest you listen."
Wow, Mark. You sound fired up.
I might be redirecting my energy away from national and county politics to the 4 square miles. I think that is a good way to keep my sanity.
Okay. So obviously this new third ward candidate that you guys are sending, this is Amber, right?
Amber, she's been my neighbor for I moved back in town around October 2010. So she's been my neighbor for 14 years. She's been my neighbor for 14 years. She's been living here for 20 years, 20 plus years.
All right.
Yeah. And she's built a good network of people. She got, when she ran for mayor, I think 1,800 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she has an established political network. She has an established career in committees, and she has if you go to Amber, the number 4, thepeople.com, you can see her party plank, her candidacy plank, and you can understand where she is and what she's doing.
So tell me a little bit more about Amber. What's her last name? Amber Fellows?
Fellows.
Okay. Amber Fellows, you guys, as the 3rd Ward, are sending her to City Council. When you spoke to City Council, it sounds like there's a little bit of controversy surrounding Amber's election. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Amber ran a good ground game against the council member that was appointed to replace Annie Somerville when Annie got elected and went on to the county board of commissioners. And I'm not going to say anything bad. Evan.
I thought that there was some ideological difference.
There are always ideological differences. Evan is a fan of establishment processes.
Sure.
Evan thinks that the system can work properly. You just need to put the right people in.
Okay.
I think that for a lot of 3rd Ward members of the voting bloc, that the system feels terribly broken and the system itself should be changed. I think that is an overarching feeling amongst 3rd Ward voters.
So what does Amber run on that's different from Evan? Evan's establishment, he's very, let's enforce the policies that we have, mm-hmm. and if we do it the right way, things will work out. What does Amber think?
Amber wants to break the stranglehold of rental property owners from the policy decisions of the city.
Can you explain that to me like I'm 5?
She wants to end landlord monopolies.
There is a landlord monopoly in Ypsi?
There is a landlord monopoly on city policy.
On city policy?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in other words, the city policy has been more or less written by landlords? Is that what you're saying?
I think that the local landlords have had an oversized influence on city policy.
Ah, okay.
Yes. And for instance, I mentioned it in the speech that I wrote, the October meetings. So this is not well reported, but Stuart Beale basically convinced another appointed council member of the 2nd Ward to introduce this very scary, very vague resolution affirming the authority of the city police and the city manager to ensure public order in downtown. Now, I don't know if you know this, Quelina, but the cops and the city manager have all the relevant authority necessary every day to ensure public authority and public safety and public order in the downtown.
Well, let's back up a bit here, Mark. I think you know that I have a little bit different view of this. Let's back up and talk about the problem that preceded this resolution.
Oh, yes.
Introduction.
Yes, it was a real problem.
There is a very real problem in downtown regarding public safety.
Mm-hmm.
There has, to my understanding, been an increase in homeless population and activity related to that and in downtown. The biggest, most controversial one that I personally remember in recent memory was that there's been pooping on public land.
Yes.
To be frank, I think that that's a health issue.
That is a health issue.
I understand where you're coming from in saying that the resolution itself was too general and too broad, but I didn't see anybody else stepping up and making any effort to propose a solution.
Yeah.
So I will hand it to Stuart, and I will say that it pushed forward the issue. It pushed the issue.
Yes. It also ruined 2 city council meetings. They weren't able to do any business for 2 city council meetings. It was a way to bring the issue to the fore, but it also wasted a month's worth of work.
Well, isn't that the point of, electing Amber? Isn't that the point of breaking the system? If nobody's listening if the system's not listening to the right people, to the right problems, bring the problem to the council, right? I don't know that that was Stuart's intention, but I don't think that he had ill will or ill intent.
I do not ascribe bad faith to Stuart Beale. I do believe that Stuart is not as savvy with city politics as he wants to be.
Sure.
Because wasting an entire month of work doesn't do anything. Getting people upset and organized.
Well, now we have an now we have an overnight space for homeless people while it's cold out.
Oh, sure, but I think that kind of resolution might have been established a month ago. I mean, it was always going to happen. The city manager and the county board of commissioners, they were talking with it, and there's the state money, and the resolution was always going to get approved, as far as I understand. And it would have been done in October rather than at the last meeting on the 12th of November.
I feel like this is becoming a bit of a pattern, though, for this city council. They will let things go until the absolute last minute. That's why DPS employees decided to threaten to quit.
Yeah.
I don't see this as... I see this as kind of just in time policy.
It's not great.
And
I hope that Amber and Desiree are able to break the idea of just in time, like forward loading the sort of things that we need, because approving the resolution just before it snowed, not great.
I do understand that it's difficult to get policy in place if you can't actually talk. I do understand that. I also wonder if it could have been avoided. I wonder if there's not a better way to disseminate information about what's going on at city council. I feel maybe you and I could start posting the minutes.
Yeah, we could start talking about things, doing a recap.
That's the whole point. That was the whole point of this group in the first place. Was Ypsi area discussion was supposed to started off as a small group where neighbors could talk about local issues.
Yeah.
And everybody had a voice. It's grown. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that it's grown. But when there are as many people talking as there are, it's become very energy intensive. But I do hope that we can get back to maybe sparking some discussion. Mm-hmm. I think that there should still be a space for people to talk about policy.
Yeah. And I think that I will try to attend the meetings and grab the minutes after they're posted, try to come up with as fair of an interpretation of what the meeting was about.
Yeah, like a 5-minute recap.
Like a 5-minute recap.
Elevator recap.
Elevator recap, and just post it, and people that are interested can see it and talk about it.
So what else was discussed at this meeting? You can't be the only person to have spoken.
Oh no, I wasn't. There were 7 other people. I do not recall exactly what they said. There's the YouTube
Was there
video.
anything? Do you remember City Council talking about anything?
Yes, the big thing for me, at least, besides the establishment of the overnight shelter, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big step forward.
Mm-hmm. The big thing that I was interested in is the state and federal government's involvement in the cleanup of Water Street. Now, dear listeners, if you are hearing about Water Street for the first time, 15 minutes in to this podcast, I don't know why you are listening, but anyway, let's just assume that you don't know about Water Street. In the 90s, late 90s, Ed Carisno, he went to council and he pushed this idea of urban renewal, where we would buy these 38 acres of downtown riverfront property, clear it out, and sell it to this developer, and it would be turned into these condos, and it would be fantastic, and we'd have a giant tax base, and it would be wonderful. So for 150 years, the Water Street area was industrial area. It was a place where people dumped their old chemicals on the ground and they didn't think about it. And there's lead, and there's volatile organic compounds, and there's PCBs, and it's just nasty. And Ed K got the city to clear the land and issue the bonds, and then the developer took one look at the soil samples in the 90s and was like, oh no, we're bankrupt. And as far as I understand, it was a paper bankruptcy. They loaded up all of their debt onto this paper company and said that they were responsible for the Water Street project, but they had no money, so they had to go bankrupt, and the developer ran away. So the city was in the hole in the late 90s for like $38 million. And then we yelled at each other for like 5-7 years till we finally passed this thing called the Water Street debt millage. And that took the Water Street debt out of the general fund. And we've been paying it down, and it's pretty much gone. The Water Street debt is pretty much gone. But what's not gone is the pollution. And thanks to the state and the federal government, we've been able to map out the dirtiest parts of a lot of it.
In general, they've done quite a bit to save.
They've done a lot.
We have basically stripped away everything that we could.
Yeah, and then the voters passed, basically the 2.3 mils was swapped from the street millage to the Water Street millage. And that pulled off that debt load onto the general fund, because we were paying for the streets, and then we were paying for Water Street.
Oh, this is from 2016.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. Why does the city of Ypsilanti have something up there from 2016?
So I'm going to tell you right now, I just checked the city's website on the city council.
Yeah.
And council member Roland Tooson, Tooson, is spelled, as of the last time I checked it, I think it's going to be changed after this gets published, is spelled Roland Toosen, Toosen. So I don't think the city's website is the best run ever. But, I can barely.
What is tax abatement?
Tax abatement? Okay, so if you are going to buy a piece of old stuff, like the Thompson building, right? And you're going to fix it up, and you're going to hire people, and there's going to be economic activity in the downtown. Well, that's a public good. Mm-hmm. And so we can abate your taxes for years, decades. And ostensibly, the people that have got jobs, they're paying taxes on their income. And the people that were going to spend, that weren't coming to downtown and weren't buying dinners, they pay sales tax on it. So there's some tax activity that's going on, even if there's no city property tax.
That sales tax isn't going to the city, is it?
It goes to Lansing, and then some of it comes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So back to Water Street.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to sidetrack us. I thought that I had something on Water Street, but I didn't. So what is the current situation? Because I'm looking at the Water Street redevelopment area page for the city of Ypsilanti. I don't know that it gives a very good history.
Yeah. So on the city's website, they're putting their best face forward. They're not saying that it was a complete cluster, because they don't want potential developers to think that we don't know.
Have our stuff together.
Yeah. Basically,
this just seems disingenuous.
Yeah.
It just seems like it seems worse to leave the public misinformed than to. This is the whole issue with the Mansfield property. It is worse to leave the public misinformed than it is to miss out on developers.
Yeah.
Than to miss out on business deals. The people that we want in Ypsilanti, the people that we want doing business in Ypsilanti, should be honest people. Mm-hmm. who are going to respect an informed public.
Yeah, the Mansfield thing was such a mess. I don't know why it seemed like a good idea to hire a former council member to run the search. I mean, sure, he wasn't on council for years and years and years. That's true, but he was on council. All right? There were no ethics violations, but I think, what did I say? The appearance of impropriety is impropriety?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's... Anyway, we are coming up on probably half an hour worth.
We didn't really talk about much of anything yet.
Not yet. We also have, we can talk about county politics. Mm-hmm. About my friend Alicia. She's going to get sworn in at the Morris Lawrence building in December.
I have a real problem. I'm looking at the City of Ypsilanti's website on my phone. A lot of people are not going to be looking on a desktop anymore. A lot of people do a lot of business on their phones. And I'm really struggling. I don't feel like government's never been particularly efficient, but I do think that if the government were able to put together a layout that makes sense, if I go to the menu for the city government and I go down to pet licenses, for instance, I get ordinance enforcement. What is this? You know, and it goes, ordinance enforcement is a division of the police department. Its purpose is to ensure safety, da-da-da-da-da. Common ordinance violations, animal control, chickens in the city, dog licenses, and honeybees. Okay, but how far down did I have to scroll to get to pet licenses?
You can in a modern website, if you have the pet licenses hyperlink, it can go to the ordinance enforcement page and then go straight to the part of the page that's talking about pet licenses. It's perfectly possible. These are the things, I mean, misspelling a council member's name.
Okay, let's not, like, put people on blast for, like, potential dyslexia or something like that. You know, like, there's typos that happen. That's a relatively small error. Yeah. You know, I don't... You know, people publish signs with apostrophes in places they shouldn't and commas all over. And I used to get annoyed by that, but it's just such a pedantic thing to point out. At this point in life, there are bigger fish to fry. Mm-hmm. If we can get a well-organized webpage, if there's an apostrophe, if there's a typo on there, I don't care. It's a lot great. As long as it's more navigatable than this.
Yeah. So yes, ease of use is much more important than grammar conventions. I agree with you. I just, when I think
you're also coming from a place of privilege where, like, you are extraordinarily well educated.
Yeah.
You know, less than 40%, just about 40% of all of America is functionally illiterate. Can't read above a 6th grade reading level. And so, like, let's stop being pedantic here.
And increase my sphere of compassion and patience.
Sorry to call you out on a hot mic here, but yeah, I just think that's not even worth your time.
So one of the things about being a moderator for Ypsilanti area discussion is that I have increased my baseline patience at an incredible rate. And I still have work to do. And I admit it.
I love you, Mark.
I love you, Quillinia.
Let's talk about some things that we got coming up. What's coming up within the community? We've got Thanksgiving.
We've got the Thanksgiving that's coming up, and we've also got the Depot Town Tree Lighting Festival.
When is that?
Well, you can probably pull that up. And then there's also the opening of the downtown library sometime in December.
The one that's been closed?
The one that's been closed because of that torrential flood.
That's finally opening back up.
I've
never seen the inside of that particular library.
Yeah, so what happened with a lot of the problems was the library was shut down, and so the people that were always there.
December 1st. The tree lighting is December 1st.
Okay. So the people that were always there in downtown, they didn't have a shelter. They didn't have a daytime shelter in the form of the public library. Libraries aren't libraries. Libraries are outposts of civilization and mercy and care.
They're a third space.
They are a third space, and we lost a third space when that rainstorm came in and flooded the building. And that rainstorm was, it was a natural thing, but, we didn't have those kinds of rainstorms 40, 50 years ago. Things are happening. I don't know if you noticed, but things are happening. And I am so glad that the third space is opening up again in downtown. And there's a study space. You've got that laptop. Maybe we can do an on-site podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen this thing? Sorry to change the subject. I'm very excited. We've got a tree lighting coming up. We've got the library opening back up.
The swearing in of Alicia.
Alicia's swearing in. When is that?
I think it's the 13th.
Of December?
Of December.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you seen this thing, Ipsy's Little Sister?
Oh yeah, Ipsy's Little Sister. I know the person that's running Ipsy's Little Sister, and they're doing a great job.
So it looks like she's just kind of celebrating Ipsy in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Is that what the aim is here?
That is what the attempt and aim is. Yeah.
Okay, I see that. Looks like they're hosting a First Friday's crochet workshop on December 6th at Ipsy Art Supply.
Yeah.
You can learn how to make a cat ear beanie from start to finish.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to publish these podcasts at least once a month. And hopefully we can do like a monthly recap of 4 square mile events.
Sure.
And get some interest there. And I can add in all of the links in the description, because this is going to be posted as a YouTube video. And
we're on video?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
You had me shaking in my slippers over here. I haven't changed out of my PJs. I came over in my giant blanket hoodie.
No, I am going to keep this an audio only podcast that's going to be posted on a video website. Yeah, and we'll figure out how to widely distribute the audio onto different platforms. But I am looking forward to expanding the scope and frequency of this podcast with your help.
Yeah, hopefully we can find a direction to go in.
Mm-hmm. All right, so can we do commercials? You got any commercials?
So there's an Australian company called Hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
They make huge hoodies that are basically a blanket that you wear. And Costco has a brand that's not called Hoodie. I don't know what it's called, but they were only like $20 and they were great. I've been living in this ever since I got it a week ago.
Oh yeah. It looks good on you.
Thank you. I feel like, I'm borrowing grandma's moo-moo. Just so comfy.
Oh yeah.
So to that end, I was thinking about it, and I was like, this is basically a blanket hoodie. Why has no one called it a blanket hoodie? Well, because when you mash up blanket hoodie, it's just bloody.
Oh.
So my thought here is to make blanket hoodies that are horror themed and call them bloodies.
Oh man, that would be great.
Yeah?
And October, that's when this weather is starting to turn, so it's a good cross marketing thing.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to take that, this is now going into the public domain, and it was my idea first. Mm-hmm. And so this podcast has been brought to you by the future Bloody.
Yeah. All right. At this time, I want to thank my co-host, Quellinia Hagenrader, for her dedication to creativity and community.
Thanks, Mark. You're pretty cool, too.
Yes. Until next time.